Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bogey Golf Podcast hosted by Dave and Jonny. Today, I am delighted to say that I am joined by a man that I've been trying to get on the podcast for 12 months almost to the day now. I spoke to him when he first went off to Hawaii last year, and what a 12 months this man has had. Seamus Power, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
No, I mean, how are you? What a 12 months you've had.
Yeah, geez, I mean, things are it is nuts to think because you never, golf one since you're always kind of looking forward to the next week or looking on. There's always something coming up, so you don't take too much time to kind of whatever you'd call it to kind of take in the full view. But no, it's been unbelievable. I mean, it's changed the view of my career, and so hopefully I can kind of keep it up.
And it's been obviously been far more than just 12 months in the work, but um, would you say that from the injury you had a couple of years ago back to then reassessing over the last 18 months that something has changed in the last while? Or when did this period that we're seeing now, when did the fruits of this labor really begin?
Like I remember talking, so it was it was Bermuda in what is this 22? So Bermuda in the fall of 2020, I was playing, and that was like the first time I remember talking to my caddy. Like, that was the first time. That was kind of the beginning of it. Like it didn't really, kind of show up for another few months because that was my last tournament before I had to have surgery. And then honestly, at the beginning of last year it was so frustrating because I knew my game was in like a good spot, but I was flying to Hawaii that time. But I mean, I got in on Tuesday evening, didn't play a practice round. And it's kind of just a mess. And then I got into Torrey Pines like 3-4 weeks later, but I got in, I think it was 8 minutes before the tee time, as I actually was notified I got into the tournament. So it was like got off to a bad start there. And it was one of those kind of periods that I knew it was in a good spot, but I just wasn't getting the opportunities to play. So it was frustrating, in all fairness, but like I knew eventually that I would get some opportunities. And I was able to Monday. I said I kind of built it into, got qualified into a couple of tournaments through Monday qualifiers, and got a bit of momentum going. And just like once I got like some tournament rounds, I knew I was going to be. I certainly felt deep down I was going to be able to keep it going.
So there was a lot to unpack there. But before we get into the surgery, could we talk about Sony there last year when, like you were saying, you flew in late to before the Thursday, then 8 minutes before your tee time, realistically you're informed that you're playing. What's going through your head in the 48 hours leading up to that? Because obviously you must get some kind of notification that you might be there, you're thereabouts. X number of reserves have dropped out, or the people have in the field have dropped out. Like, where's your head at during that?
It was tough. So that was the 8 minutes before was Torrey Pines in San Diego. It's like, so the one that's on this week. It was very bizarre because I flew out there not really knowing, and I hadn't really been in that position before. And like Simon flew over from Ireland, and we're playing a practice round, and we're checking the field list, and then you get notified when you're up to second alternate, I think. And then someone withdrew on the Wednesday practice round, so it was the first alternate. So that's when I kind of I thought I had a chance of getting in, but it was bizarre from there because there was a couple of guys. So the tour basically told me that there was a couple of guys that were kind of injured that might not play. So it was kind of positive. But then the next morning, like there, I see them warming up and stuff, and like they're clearly not fully healthy, but I see them warming up and everything. So when they eventually go tee off, I just assumed that's my chance gone and done. But then out of nowhere, so I was hanging by the chipping green, and at this point there was only a couple of groups left, so I just assumed that was it. I was just going to be flying back east to Charlotte, and yeah, out of nowhere, Scott Piercy withdrew, and then so I had to go literally straight to the tee box. So I jump in a van, they bring me straight to the tee, and the other two guys in the group, literally like Charles Howell already had the ball teed up on the tee box. So it was a very strange kind of see because it never really happened to me before. But it is tough because honestly, when the two guys that I thought may have a chance of pulling out, you just you kind of shut off in terms of your focus kind of going away. And I was at this point I was just kind of chatting, not really thinking much of it at all. And then all of a sudden you're hitting your first tee shot at Torrey Pines South course. So it's quite the turnaround. It does make it tough to prepare though, because you spend so much energy and focus just wondering if you're going to get in, if you're going to get in, if you're going to get in, that when you do get in, you're kind of not even ready to go. It was tough. It was definitely tough to perform well.
So for any kind of passing golf fans or people that might not be as into it as you or I, Could you give a bit of context to what the surgery was required and what the injury was the year obviously before that?
Yeah, so I got it in so I hurt it. Jeez, the COVID is so crazy. Look at years. It was about 2 years ago I hurt it. Not really. I mean, I say hurt it. It was just wear and tear. So I developed bone spurs in the back of my left elbow, just wear and tear stuff. And then I also had nerve issues in that elbow where, I mean, well, into the nerve kind of, it stays in a certain little like bone, like in between two bones in your left elbow. And it becomes so like kind of loose just from wear and tear that it would slip out over the bones and it would cause like shooting pain on that left arm. So I got the bone spurs removed, and then they also kind of tightened that nerve to put it back to where it's meant to stay. So it was great, but it was all of 2020. It was very painful, and it could just show up. Like most of the time, it would be fine, but then I'll always remember, like I think it was 18 Pebble 2 years ago. I just had a shooting pain. I literally just had to stand there for a couple of minutes, holding my elbow, hoping the pain would go away. So it was a strange one. I was delighted to get it sorted there a couple of years ago, and it took a long time. Actually, it was probably until like the summer last year, so it was 6-7 months before it started feeling normal again. I mean, the nerve, just anytime they touched the nerve, I guess it was very, very strange. You get like tingly feelings down a couple of those for the fingers in my left hand. So it was delighted to get it sorted. I mean, it's just one of those sports you play it for so long, hit so many balls that you just get the wear and tear stuff, and that was one of those things that finally caught up to me.
That's sounded, first of all, just agonizing. I can't imagine I'd want to be just holding my arm in pain and shooting pain like that so frequently as well, because there's not much you could have done up until the point where you were getting surgery. You just had to just accept the pain.
Pretty much, yeah. Because then I was hoping when the COVID delay happened, or like when the tour paused in early 2020 for COVID, I was hoping to get maybe the surgery done, but then they canceled all like elective surgeries. So I just had to keep pushing it back until they kind of would allow you get like the elective surgeries again. Like obviously it was sore and stuff, but it wasn't obviously a a life threatening thing or anything. So you just kind of kept getting pushed back. But yeah, it was I mean, injuries are always strange. Like the first few weeks after it, I mean, I called the surgeon a few times because I'd never had anything with nerves before. So it was really strange. Like that, I couldn't really feel to my fingers, in my left hand. And it didn't feel right at all. So I was very, very worried, like initially, but it's great now. Like sometimes in the cold, you get a little bit, it just gets a little sore or whatever, but like, structurally it's fine again, which is the most important part.
Do you look back at that time in the last two years to where you are now? I mean, you just finished 3 weeks on the road where you've gone from 434th, I think, after Sony Open the year previous
Yeah.
to now 47th. And like, have you and Simon had a chance to take in over the last 3 weeks in particular what all of that work has now culminated in, and the position that you guys are in as a team?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Maui, it definitely kind of hit us because I mean, I'd never played a tournament like that before. That was just such a cool experience. I mean, I think it was 37 or 8 people, and it was just, that was when it kind of hit home. It's like, geez, this is so different. But I mean, I told him, it's like the world rankings is funny because honestly, only recently, I mean, it sounds strange, but I never really paid that much attention to world rankings in terms of, it didn't really affect me because I was so far down. It was like,
Sure.
you're just desperately trying to finish in that top 125 so you can play again the next year. So it's only really affected me or not affected me, but it's only kind of come to my attention like the last 6 months. But I mean, it's a cool thing to be able to say, it's like, someone asked me recently, it's one of those benchmarks, like the top 50 in the world where, it's like a top 10 in a tournament. It's one of those benchmarks that we kind of use as golfers, and to be able to say that you're in the top 50 is like, it's a very cool thing. And, I mean, there's obviously a lot of perks that can come with it. So hopefully you can kind of get up there a little further and get a bit further away from that number 50 spot.
We will, of course, have a chat about your win at the Barbasol Championship, but you mentioned it there. You mentioned the Tournament of Champions. How quickly after your win in Barbasol do you think about, I get to go play here now? Or how quickly were they in touch with you?
I mean, to be honest, it was one of those things that came up quite quickly because, I've seen it for years, and it's just, I mean, I suppose it's like everything in life, isn't it? It's like one of those things that when people tell you can't play it or can't be in it, you just want to be in it even more. And it was just, again, it was so special. I mean, I said 38 guys. I think it was I think was one person missing, so maybe 39 people in the world eligible or something to play it. And just that alone was just so cool. And you look along the driving range, and it's the most low stress tournament I've ever seen in my life. I mean, everyone's just enjoying it. This is just everyone's happy to be here. Obviously, like on the business end, tour on Sunday, you saw some people getting into it, but for the most part, guys are pretty relaxed, and it was just an amazing way. But it was pretty soon after the win. I mean, the exemption was the first thing that hit me, like just knowing that you get 2 full years, but then all of a sudden it's like, you get in the Tournament of Champions, and that was it's just, that's one of those special things. Like the other things kind of took a while to settle in. Like, I mean, I got into PGA and stuff like that, but at the Tournament of Champions was just, again, it's just one of those things that I've seen on TV for years, and it's like, what a great way to start your year. It's like, guaranteed points and all this kind of thing. And just to be a part of it was very special.
Yeah, I think watching it was definitely a very different experience watching it at 4:00 in the morning in Ireland to being at it. But just watching it at the start of every season, I'd say it must be one of those experiences where you can just look back at whatever point when you retire and go, yeah, I was a PGA Tour winner. I played there. That was one of the cool experiences that very, very few people get to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think that's the coolest part, knowing that like it can never be taken away from you, that experience, and just knowing that you were there. And as you said, very few people actually get to be a part of it. And, to be one of those people, I was lucky enough, obviously, this year. And I'll tell you what, it gives you some motivation to try win again and get back there, though. It was just, there's the whole vibe, but it was so special. It was so different from any tournament I've ever played. And, you definitely want to be back there.
I heard in another podcast that you made a switch away from kind of TrackMan to G Quad, and that kind of opened your eyes up to a whole other aspect of you understanding your game. And how big a role did that play in just the year that went on to follow?
Yeah, honestly, like it's awful. Like, so many people have asked me about it, but it really has been huge. And it's such, it seems like a bizarre thing, like you bought this thing, but I learned some things that at least I don't think were explained to me before, and it opened my eyes to what was kind of happening with my golf ball and how to fix it.
So sorry, before we get into it, because I can feel we're already going to get pretty deep into the numbers. You were using TrackMan prior to that, and you were getting your data from that in terms of like what your misses were, how you were hitting it. And what was TrackMan telling you that you decided, and how did you decide to go with a completely different system? Because you see TrackMan lining driving ranges everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it has been strange. There wasn't many when I got it. There wasn't many on tour. I just saw, honestly, I mean, the first person I saw using was Bryson, and I remember watching him. I'm got my years mixed up. Was that the year? I think 2020 was when he won the US Open, and I remember watching on the driving range. I was like, "Geez, what the hell is this thing?" And it felt like, everyone's got their opinion on Bryson or whatever, but like he does seem to be, he's sharp in terms of like tools for the game. Like he's not afraid to, at least try find something that's going to help him. So I saw that, and that was the first time it registered with me. And then I was playing in where was I? Dominican Republic in the fall of 2020. Another player that I know had it out, so I just went over and just basically just hit a couple of balls. I wanted to see what it was like, and immediately it was fascinating because I'll always remember, like, there was a left to right wind blowing on the driving range, and I was missing a couple of shots, and I hit a couple of shots that I thought in my mind was doing one thing, but actually when I looked down, it was actually doing something completely different. And it was just kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I was like, so I changed it. So the way I can describe it is like the TrackMan tells you like almost why something is happening, in terms of like, it gives you incredible data in terms of like what your club face is doing and your path and all this stuff. The G Quad doesn't. It tells you what the ball just did. Nothing else. It doesn't tell you why or anything. It just says, like, I have it set up, at least it tells you where the ball starts, what the ball curves, and what the ball's spinning. And it just immediately made it so simple to me, because I had been kind of so worried, like trying to figure out what was happening in my swing, that it sounds so dumb, and it's so like, but it's like I wasn't actually seeing what the ball was doing properly. And it sounds bizarre. Like I tell people this now, and it's so weird. Like I was curving the ball right to left, and I thought I was pulling it.
Okay. Which
changes everything. Like, to fix one is completely different to fixing another. So I was kind of going around in a circle trying to fix a shot that I wasn't actually hitting. And it sounds so bizarre because, I mean, I hit hundreds of balls every day. You'd think it'd be obvious that, look, Seamus, you should know that it's curving like that. But I actually didn't. Because by the time I looked up, like you hit a shot, by the time you look up and like pick up the ball, it had already curved. And it looked to me that it started left.
Sure.
And it's such a bizarre thing. When I got it first, it was so strange to see the numbers. But like literally from that point on, it's been dramatic improvement. It's just, I was able to figure out how to curve it properly the way I thought, like to get the ball to do what I thought it was originally doing. It's such a bizarre thing. Like it seems so rudimentary. It's like how would you not know what your ball is doing? Like I mean, I said I stand and watch my own golf ball for hours and hours every day, but I actually didn't know what my ball was doing. It seems so dumb, and it's like I don't know how it would happen, but that's what was happening to me. I thought it was pulling, and I was actually like turning it over.
You're just turning your hands over. Was that it?
Yeah, like I was like short wedge shots, like even 100-yard wedge shot with a sand wedge. I was curving it, like it doesn't seem like, but I was curving it 6, 7, 8 degrees right, left, and I thought it was pulling it. So it's like it's a completely different fix. And I was just going around in a circle and not fixing the actual problem at all. So when I saw that, and that's why it was so helpful to me. It's like, you know, I've had people like, oh, I'm going to get one. I was like, it's not going to help other people probably as much as it helped me, because I'm guessing for the most part, people know what their ball is doing. I just didn't. And it's such a weird thing. I don't know if it's because I'm some eye dominant or one of those things. I don't even understand why, but it changed completely the way I was hitting. I was hitting shots. I was just beating my head off the wall, figuring out why I thought I was hitting a shot that I was never actually hitting in the first place. And it's been great. Like I use it all the time for my practice. It tells me how far the ball goes, and it tells me what direction it's starting and what curve is on it, which is basically the 3 factors of how to get it close to the hole. I mean, if you're aiming at a hole, you have to know where it's starting, what way it's curving, and how far it's going to carry to get it close to the hole. And it's helped me with that a lot. That I just, again, before it was so strange that it seems so dumb looking back now. I was like, I didn't actually know my ball was curving a certain way, but that's the position I was in. I'd become so kind of almost infatuated with fixing different things that the TrackMan would show me. Like, you know, there's anyone who's been on one, there's like, the numbers are incredible, like face, the path, all this kind of stuff that I wasn't actually watching the golf ball nearly as much as I should have been. Okay. And it's a bizarre thing to admit to, but that's literally the spot I was in.
Wow. So essentially you saw that you were coming at the ball a certain way and curving the ball a certain way, that it gave you the understanding to know that I need to come at the ball this way. And as a result, you had just improved strokes gain when it came to wedge play and iron play.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I completely flipped it. So the approach to green, I was way down. I basically gained a shot from where I was on just an approach to the green alone. Like I shot around, which is like, I mean, that's night and day. I went from one of the worst on tour to, at least like last summer, I was like one of the best on tour. It's not quite as good as I'd like right now, but it's still up in I think I'm like 60th or 70th approach to green and tour, somewhere like that. I was 180, 190. I was so low, I didn't actually realize there was that many people on tour. That's how low I was on the numbers with approach to green. I was losing like over half a shot around on my approach play, and now I'm gaining strokes. You know, and that's like anyone who follows golf. I mean, the differences are just so small. I mean, anytime you can gain maybe, you know, a tenth or 2/10 of a shot is massive, but to gain a whole shot, I mean, it's almost unheard of. So it's been huge. It's been the biggest. It's been a huge part of the kind of improvement in the last year. And I said, hopefully, I can kind of continue to keep it up there.
That is night and day. That's stunning. That the amount of 2 or 3 small bits of data, and your ability to understand that data just changes everything for you.
Yeah, I mean. And that's the thing. It's like, I think that's people have asked me, and it's like, I don't know if other people have the same effect, because it's like, it just kind of hit me. It's like, it just made sense all of a sudden, whereas like, oh, wait a second, if I just do this will help, rather than me chasing my tail and trying to fix, you know, like, again, anyone's been like, instead of me trying to fix a position on the top of my backswing, all of a sudden, I just feel like I need to, well, if I can just change the curve on my golf ball to do this, it was the first time, it's probably the first time ever it's made like perfect sense since I was like 15 or 16 years old. I've been kind of almost chasing my tail ever since then to a certain extent. Like I've obviously had some success, but I never had really had the consistency I was looking for. I would have some good rounds here and there, but just not, regularly. And people always ask me, I think it was my first year on tour, it's like, if you could put 4 rounds together, and, I'm kind of on the inside going, like, it's not as if I'm afraid to have 4 good rounds. It's just like, I don't actually, when going out on any given day, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hit the shots I need to hit. And it would be so frustrating, because if it showed up in the last round, people are like, oh, you're like, it's like, oh, he's afraid to be in contention, or he's worried about this or that. But it's like, I'm actually not. I stood in the middle of a fairway and hit a 9-iron and completely short-sided myself and cost me a shot and a half. And it's like, it's just, that's the differences between, I was like, again, with the points on tour, it's like, to finish, I think I finished 14th, but like maybe 2-3 shots back, you're in like 35th spot. And it's, you go from getting 50 FedEx Cup points to maybe 15, and that happens 3, 4, 5 times in a year. And that's just completely changes your whole season.
You mentioned their consistency. So around May of 2021 at the AT&T Byron Nelson, that was the start of a 6-week stretch, which obviously then led up to and resulted in your win. That level of consistency over those 6 weeks was stunning to watch, and from a fan's perspective back home, it was fantastic. Did something that week click from what you were taking from your learnings here in the GC quad and working away on it? Did something click there for you?
It was bizarre. So like I played well in Dallas, but like the biggest turning point in my season was like, so the Wells Fargo was the week before, and I Monday qualified to get into the Wells Fargo, and I shot 62 or 3 to Monday qualify into the Wells Fargo. And that was, I know it's kind of fun, but that was probably the biggest turning point, because I was staring at not getting into a lot of tournaments at that point. And it was like, to get in and get 4 rounds under my belt at Wells Fargo, and then be able to fly to Dallas and already in kind of tournament mode. And then it definitely led to me playing better there. It's like, if I hadn't gone into Charlotte, I wouldn't have played a tournament in a few weeks, and I'm standing in Dallas, and who knows what kind of happens. But yeah, that was the start of a great run. But I do credit that Monday qualifier for a lot of it. It just gave me a lot of confidence, and shooting a low score obviously gives you confidence. And then I just got to Dallas. It was a new course. It was a completely different course, and I just kind of liked it. It was an easier course in terms of, there wasn't a lot of trouble or anything. But it really got me going there. And I had a disappointing. The whole thing was very encouraging. Like, I think I got up all the way up to 2nd place with 9 holes to go, and like it poured rain on the back line. It was kind of a weird experience, but it was like I really did feel comfortable up around the lead in that tournament, and it gave me a lot of confidence going into that next stretch. And as you said, like it just led to a bunch of good results, and again, like ending in the win in Barbasol. But like those couple of weeks were huge, to get into Wells Fargo and then to get in contention in Dallas, and really, like, I played well, which was very kind of nice and encouraging to see.
We chatted a good bit, myself and Dave, about how grueling Monday qualifiers are. So to go out and shoot 62, can you just give us an insight into how tough Monday qualifying is?
They're brutal. Like, it's like, it's just knowing. They're almost like mini Q schools, and I always say this is like, statistically speaking, every Monday there's just 4 guys that have to qualify. But like, when you're standing in the first tee, the odds just seem very stacked against you. And I think that's the toughest part, because literally if you're 1 over after 4 holes or something, you just feel like you're completely out of it. And it's, it's not like a tournament where, that's just a slow start and you can build yourself into it. You're almost out of it immediately. And knowing that, it makes them tough. And knowing that, you have a birdie putt on like the 5th hole that you just have to make them. And they're weird experiences. They're not that much fun. They're not very glamorous, I'll tell you that. You just show up, and there's a bunch, like, it's just kind of a mess. There's not a lot of effort into setting them up properly. So like, you're just kind of there, and you feel kind of beaten down just being there. But I was able to do it twice last year, and they were both huge. It's like, you just have to try to get yourself in the right mindset. But it is tough, as you have to shoot really low scores, and it puts a different kind of pressure on you. And then like I've played enough of them to know, like, if you're 1 or 2 over after 9 holes and you're kind of trudging to the 10th tee and you're like, I might as well just go in. But do you want to? They're the weirdest things. So like to actually successfully qualify a couple of times was massive, and that one in Charlotte was really nice, and it was one of the most nervous I've been all year. Like I played very well. I actually ended up qualifying comfortably, but obviously there's no leaderboards, nothing like that. So you just kind of wanted to keep going. But I think I was like 8 under after 12 or 13 holes, and it was really going well. But I still felt so much pressure coming down the stretch there because I knew I needed to really get in and didn't want to mess it up and all that kind of stuff. But there are different experiences. I wouldn't kind of. That's like the unglamorous side of professional golf. You certainly don't see it when you see it watching on TV.
How different a skill set is it, or mindset probably is a better way of putting it, to fight for a Monday qualifying spot to a regular tour event?
It's different because it's so short, and it feels like you just have. It doesn't reward the same skills. I often say this is like, course management almost becomes irrelevant. Like you just have to make birdies immediately, which is a hard, like it's a difficult mindset to do because, we practice all these things for tournament play. It's like, you play the percentages, you want to do this, you want to do that. And all of a sudden, all that goes out the window. It's just, you have a short iron or a wedge, and you're going at pins. And it's like, there's no, should I lay up or should I not? It's like, you're nearly always going for it. So that part of it is tricky. So you kind of have to just try stay aggressive. I mean, I don't know. I was just lucky enough to successfully do a couple last year. I don't know the secrets to them, but you just have to make lots of birdies, and you just need one of those days where a couple of things go your way, which they don't always do. But you for Monday qualifiers, you just need them to go your way, and then you've got a chance.
Well, thankfully, you don't have too many more Monday qualifiers in your future.
No, not coming up anyway. Thankfully.
No. So that then, as we spoke about, led up to your maiden victory. You didn't it was a fantastic win, but it was far from straightforward. 6 playoff holes on the 18th green. So you finish it out. What's your very first thought? Is it euphoria? Is it relief? Are you just exhausted? Like, what's the first thing that hits you?
I don't know, because it was a strange experience, because obviously the playoff is long, but then you don't even have much of a chance. Like you turn, like I shook hands with JT and whatever, but then you turn around and like there's literally a microphone like in your face immediately. So it's like you kind of get a little like shocked almost, and then you're like, they're asking you questions and they're telling you things I didn't even know. They're like, you're in this, and this, and how does it feel? I'm like, I have no idea. Like I just, it's just you dream about it for so long. Like for me at least, when I'm practicing, like since I've been young, you dream about making putts or tapping it in to win this, that. Like you dream about winning the Masters, the Irish Open, and this and that. But you never actually think about much after that, to be honest. It's always like you make the putt, but then all of a sudden all this kind of stuff happens. So it was a bizarre feeling. I mean, it was one of those things that didn't really hit home until probably the next day or two, if I'm being honest. It was so surreal, because it all happened. How it all happened was strange. I'm not a big leaderboard watcher, so like even in regulation, I finished, and when I finished, I'll be honest, I didn't think winning was a possibility. It was like I didn't know how far behind I was, but I knew I was some behind. So like when I was handing my scorecard in, the first inkling I got was like Simon's handing his bib back, and I think one of the scoring guys said, you might want to hold on to that. And we kind of look at each other going, what do you mean? He was like, JT's just gone double bogey. And I was like, wait a second. So like, out of nowhere, it was just like, oh, this is crazy. But my first thought with it all, as weird as this to say, like, it was just, I knew at that moment that my card at least was locked up for this season. So 21-22. And that was my biggest worry all season long. And all of a sudden it just changed into, I have nothing to lose, only to gain. You get into the playoff, and it's so strange because 6 holes, like being in it, it felt like it took 5 minutes total. It was just all happening so fast. I've watched playoffs that go 5-6 holes on TV, and I'm like, this is just going on forever. These guys must be bored at this point. But being in it, it felt like it took 5 minutes. I wasn't even sure how many holes we'd played. It was most, because I'd never been in a playoff before, like at any level. as far as I remember. So the whole thing was new to me, and it was the whole thing was surreal. It was kind of funny. Then the guy carrying the scoreboard was an Irish guy, and like watching him going up and back to the tee. We were just laughing. Like there were so many things I didn't even know actually existed in playoffs. Like I didn't really understand why there was a guy still carrying a scoreboard. It's like we're obviously tied, or we wouldn't be having a playoff. And the whole thing was weird. It was like, most people just stayed up by the green, so you go back to the tee box by yourself, and it was very strange. But it didn't hit me for a couple of days afterwards, and then all of a sudden you start realizing what it means. And I mean, I think forever the coolest thing to me about the whole thing was like I'll always be able to say like I won on the PGA Tour. It's like, all the other things are great, but they all go away eventually. Like your exemptions and this and that, and will all go away. But like I'll always be able to say, like I've won on the PGA Tour. And I think when that kind of hit me a couple of days later, that was the coolest part of everything. And that's kind of the thing that I still hold closest, is just that feeling itself.
You then came home to West Waterford Golf Club for a bit of a hoolie. I feel like, from what I remember, there were a few days worth of celebrations.
There was. It was some fun. I've been very fortunate. I met they sponsor me, but like they've become really good friends, and it's the Power logo on my shirt, and like it's a home remodeling company in Philadelphia, and those guys asked me in the fall of 2020 that when you get your first win, what would you like to do? And I was like, I'd love to go home like as quickly as I could. I mean, that would be the coolest part, just being able to share it with people. And they were like, perfect. We were having a few beers or whatever, so I didn't think much of it, but they were like, perfect, we'll make sure that happens. So I get off the course in Kentucky. I had a voicemail from one of the guys. He was like, we're going. He's like, the jet's ready. You tell me when you want to go. I'm like, and I called him back. I was like, I wasn't sure. Again, at this point, I wasn't even sure if he was serious, but he's like, yeah, I'm 100% serious. Let's go. And obviously with COVID and everything, we had to figure out all the, what we had to do, tests and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, the next day we fly back home, and it was an incredible experience for a whole week. I back into Dungarvan. I mean, I had so many friends. I mean, the whole thing was crazy, to be honest. Like I don't know if I was sober for the whole week. My voice was gone. It was great crack. We did a night in Dungarvan, and then we're up to Galway, just kind of like I have a good friend up there. And then we were back in West Waterford, and the next night, the whole thing was fantastic. It was like, I don't know, how other people celebrate a win or whatever, but like I'll find that hard to top the rest of my life, to be honest. It was an incredible week. And some of the best memories I've ever had, especially when it comes to golf.
I watched the video when I was doing a bit of research for this of your homecoming. And so you're doing a chat out in the balcony of the clubhouse. And I was like, well, there's a man who's lost his voice from having a good night.
It was
raspy.
It was gone. I couldn't speak at all. And I was trying my best, but it was just gone. It was like, at that point, I'd say I was gone 3 or 4 nights without sleeping, and it was just not going well at all. But it was worth it. It was worth it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, look, you do it all again, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Power, that's no relation. That's just just a fortunate name.
Yeah, it is. So in 2016, I was on it's now the Corn Ferry. It was the web.com at the time. And my manager called me. I was in the Dominican Republic, and he called me and asked me. He was like, it was such a random question. I always remembered. He was like, how do you feel about having your name on your shirt? And I'm like that. That's how it was worded. So I was completely. I didn't really know what he meant, and then he kind of explained. But yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, it's like, those guys are unbelievable. They're so supportive, and it's been fun. Obviously, like it looks like my own logo on my shirt, but yeah, that's those guys, and it's been incredible.
That's brilliant. So you're in your place in Vegas. You said you moved there almost a year ago. Where's the trophy?
Oh, there it is. I'll switch this guy around. How do I turn him around?
So it has pride of place in the house.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he's sitting there beside the blackjack table. That's
brilliant. Dead right. Absolutely, have it there. I'm sure everyone comes in, and first thing they do is gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I mean it is cool. Like, and actually this week I got some like very cool kind of memorabilia stuff from the tour. Like there's a big they sent me a big framed picture of me holding the trophy and like of my scorecards underneath, like in the frame. Like, so some very cool kind of stuff that I have to figure out where to put. But yeah, I mean, as I said, that's what's the coolest thing. It's like, no matter what happens ever in my career from this point on, it's like I'm always going to be able to say that now. Like having the trophy or having the pictures and stuff is obviously nice little part of it.
So then after the season just gone, did you get a chance to kind of decompress and think about what it all meant? Obviously, there was just a massive rush at the start, and everyone coming up to you saying you're now exempt for X number of years, you're into this, you're into that. But on a personal level, did you get a chance to just take a bit of downtime at the end of the season and just understand it all?
I did. Yeah, I did to a certain extent, but I mean, it's so strange now with the wraparound season. It's just like, I obviously was at home for that and then came back and you're into the playoffs and that was great. But I did get to go home after the playoffs again, which was very nice. A bit like between the seasons, I guess, between whatever that would have been, 2021 and 2021, 22. So that was nice. Yeah, and I really did enjoy it. I mean, like, again, just letting it all kind of sink in. I mean, I obviously, like, the win was fantastic, but like, I mean, Simon and I spoke about and stuff, like we have bigger goals and that kind of stuff we're trying to get to. But I mean, that's one of those experiences that between us, we'll never forget. So we were making sure we enjoyed it and we took it in, and that part of it. But it's yeah, I mean, it's been fun ever since, and also like trying to keep up the good form and that kind of thing. But it's one of those things. I keep going back to them, but no matter what happens, that's something I'll never forget.
Well, you certainly did keep up the good form, and so the new season began, and your positive trajectory just continued, and your consistency just continued on leaps and bounds. Was that something that, like, it was just the good work continued on, or were you just constantly trying to improve or trying to make improvements?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, the biggest thing to me was just like a slight change of mentality. Like I know it's a small thing, but when it was pointed out to me, so I went to see Bob Rotella just over a year ago now, and he had some statistics that was just like was blowing. Like, not that I wasn't trying to win before and stuff, but like he showed me like some statistics of guys who win tournaments, and like I don't have exactly off my head, but I mean, I'll always remember, like, if you're not in like the top, it's bizarre. I think like some of the Tiger stuff almost kind of lures you into thinking that like all these comebacks happen very often. But he's like, if you're not in the top 10 after 2 rounds, it's very, very, very unlikely that you'll win the tournament. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I know it's only a little, but like he pointed out some statistics like that, and it's made me much more aggressive in terms of like trying to get up towards the top of the leaderboard. Like just little things he points out is like everything that you want in golf is in the top 3 spots. You're obviously trying to win, but at worst case scenario, you need to be firing towards those top couple of spots. And that's really changed my mentality, and it's helped me a lot. Like even last week in Sony, like years past, I don't know what position I was in, but I got birdied the last 2 holes. But without those 2 birdies, I still would have finished maybe top 10. But that up to what I finished 3rd or 4th is just massive in terms of points and world ranking points and all that. So that's when I just changing my mentality in terms of that and trying to stay really aggressive all the way to the end. Keep playing my game literally until I run out of holes has been the biggest thing. And in the fall and the start of this year, it's been great. Because when I'm making cuts, I'm constantly trying to stay aggressive. And instead of finishing, maybe I might have finished 35th or 40th a couple of years ago. It doesn't always work. I mean, I had a bad round on Sunday and I dropped down spots, but like even at the end of that, I was like trying to finish as high. I know it sounds so simple again, but trying to finish as high as I can instead of just kind of being like, oh, if I par the last 2 holes, I'll finish 19th, say, or whatever it is, sure. Instead of like just kind of keep playing and keep playing my game all the way until the end. And that's been the biggest thing. Like even starting in last summer, it's like when I've made a lot of like top, like higher finishes versus making cut and stuff is nice, but finishing 50. Don't get me wrong, like obviously the PGA Tour, they still pay you and all that stuff, but you don't get the same rewards. You get a couple of points here, and you don't really gain much in terms of your status versus even the start of this year, like I know last week wasn't great, but like having those top 20 finishes, you do get chunks of points, and that's been my thing, is just trying to get like chunks of points rather than just kind of being happy and settling for, whatever position you're in with 5 holes to go, instead of just kind of keep going. And I was able to do that in the fall. Having the exemption helps, like, don't get me wrong, because it's like, you feel like you've nothing to, but you feel like
There's
you've
a
nothing
freedom
to
there,
lose. Yeah, you and I mean, forever I said this, and I always, like, when I'm watching, I don't watch a lot of golf on TV, but like, if I said this before I had a win, say, if I'm down, like Torrey Pines, a perfect example this week. I don't know, pick a player like Dustin Johnson. Say, if me and him are tied, we're both 275 to the hole on Sunday, tied for the lead, over water, like the Sunday at Torrey Pines. Like, it's a much easier decision for him standing in 18 fairway, and much easier shot to hit 3-wood on the green, because whatever, worst case scenario, hits in the water and he finishes 5th, not a big deal. He's a career exemption. He still wants to win, obviously, and you still have nerves for that, but you don't have much to lose, versus someone who doesn't have the exemption, and you're worried about, you might end up laying it up, because I know Ricky Fowler got slated years and years ago before he became Ricky Fowler for doing the same thing, because it's like, you have to worry about keeping your job to a certain extent. And I like, when that's taken off you, like for me in the fall, it felt very, very comfortable just to stay aggressive and, try. But like, if you don't win, you're finishing high, versus, almost avoiding playing badly, which maybe sometimes I was doing in the past.
Sure. I think I might know what that Bob Bertella stat is, just as the golf nerd in me. It was that 80% of winners are in the top 20 after the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
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 So how did that then free you up? So you're saying that it did free you up, but what was your mentality like before that, and what did it shift to?
It changed my mind, or changed my mentality, because like in the past, it's like, you kind of feel if you make the cut, you've got a chance. But all of a sudden, I was like, instead of like thinking of making the cut, it's like, if you're not really like if you're not in the top 20 after 2 rounds, you're probably not winning the tournament. And it's like, it just, especially anymore, guys don't come backwards. You have to just go, and it's only a small change of mentality. But it wasn't if I was out there like, oh, I just need to make the cut, but it was being, on a Friday or even on a Thursday, like maybe not being quite as aggressive, or leaving a shot or 2 out there that, it's like, if I make, on the weekend, I'll be able to make it back. But you just can't make it back, because guys just continue to make birdies. And it's like, it was just one of those stats when I saw it, and he showed, like, again, it was like, I think it was like top 30 after it was so strange to say, but it wasn't, if you're not in the top 30 after the first round, your chance of winning an event are so small. And it was, I thought it was like a startling thing. And as you said, top 20 after the second round, and top 10 after the third round. So that was, knowing that is the situation, just kind of highlighted that I just needed to just kind of change how I viewed stuff. Sometimes like you would view a made cut maybe as a success. Like, again, you're not out there just thinking I want to make the cut, but like, you're looking back, it's like, at least I made the cut, versus thinking that if you're outside the top 20 after 2 rounds, you're really out of the tournament. And it was just like, that's where I need to be. That's where I want to be. So it was just kind of opened my eyes just a little bit to the actual reality of the situation, to be honest.
So you kind of created a personal or a mental cut for yourself, where top 20, that's where your cut is.
Well, just being aware of that even just helps, where it's like, I feel like, especially on TV, the commentators talk, you often hear it's like, you can't, you can't lose it on or you can't win it on Thursday, but you, like, that sort of thing. But it's like, it's kind of gone, where it's like, you go out and shoot even par, like last week in Palm Springs in the first round, and your chances of winning are pretty much gone immediately. And it's, in the past, it's like, you'd be a little bit more okay with that. It's like, because I'd shoot 3 or 4 under, get back in it. But it's like, you actually don't get back in it. And it was just seeing the stats, like even the stat you just used there, there is no, like, these come from behind victories that kind of get, like I feel like because of Tiger, like, I feel like you remember all these come from behind wins. But then when he was breaking down the stats, he was like, I think he win nearly all of his majors from leading. Mm-hmm. And it was like, there's very few situations where people have these dramatic comebacks. and it just kind of opened my eyes and just got me to, to look higher, like in terms of like where I want to be and stuff.
Yeah, the Tiger stats are always a funny one because you're trying to compare yourself to the Terminator, and that's just he is
Yeah.
not human. Like,
No, it's not. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's incredible. Like even like I was, when I was driving back to there and I thinking about that, it was like all the times that he was. I wasn't leading round, but I was whatever fourth or something in the last round, and like all the times that he was up there, like I shot 74. Like you never remember him shooting like 74. Like it was just no matter how well or badly he was playing, he just found a way of shooting a good score. Always, like all that pressure on him, all the eyes are on him. Like it is remarkable. He made winning look so incredibly easy. It's crazy.
I know, it's wild. So you mentioned there that obviously working with Bob Rotella helps with your consistency, and I'm just looking at some of your stats from this year and comparing them to the last 2 years. So in 2020, 2021 season, you obviously had the 1 win, 4 top 10s, and 7 top 25s. This season already, you got the same number of top 25s, 4 top 10s, top 3 in 9 events. So you're absolutely trending in the right direction, and that consistency is coming through in a big way. That must be comforting. I'm sure you want another win in there, and you've like with 2 top 3s already this season, you're close. But to see that kind of consistency, you must be comforted by that.
I am, and like, it's been, this season has been very, very encouraging. Like I won last season, but like even in the fall, it was like the first time I was in the last group day, which is like just a cool thing to be able to experience and stuff. And even the last couple of weeks, I was second last. Was I second last group? I think I was second last group last couple of weeks on a Sunday, and just being in those situations, it normalizes it a little bit, which makes you feel much more comfortable. Again, I didn't play well on Sunday, but it wasn't a situation where it wasn't the moment that caused me to play poorly. It was just one of those days on the golf course, which is
conditions looked also really, really tough on Sunday. Like the wind looked like it was blowing a gale.
A little trickier, yeah. And it was just one of those days. It's a little tricky golf course, and I honestly, I didn't have my best game, and it just, things just didn't go my way type thing. But like in the past, I've definitely, because I wouldn't be in those situations very often, I'm probably pressing too hard and this and that and all this kind of stuff. Where you do like the consistency and being up there, and like this season, like being up there a few times, like you do get more and more comfortable. Like, it's like the second last group, like, there's big crowds there, and so, and all that stuff just becomes a little more normal, and it feels easier to perform at your own level, which has been cool. I mean, that's one of the things with the more consistent play, that's helped a lot. I mean, you just get yourself in those positions, and you're able to kind of take, I played well in some of those spots already this season, as you said, with some of the results. But yeah, I mean, you're always going to be pushing for that win. But I mean, when it has been a great start to the season. So I'm very pleased at the moment, and hopefully in kind of off week this week, and then kind of get back into it next week.
What does the off week look like for you now?
This week's a little different. Trying to get my car fixed. I had a disaster getting back from Palm Springs, and I hit a massive pothole in the middle of the desert. So my completely destroyed the front right tire and wheel and everything.
So you were driving home from the American Express back to your house in Vegas.
Yeah.
What, middle of the night?
No, it wasn't even that late. It was only like 8:00. But obviously it gets dark there in the desert. I stupidly it was a shortcut like I saw on the thing, and it was short. It was like, I'll just cruise through the desert, but it's complete dead zone for phone coverage. So blew the tire out, and then I realized that my car, never even dawned on me to check, doesn't have a spare tire. So it was like, oh shit. Couldn't call anyone, couldn't even call like nothing. So I was lucky, like a couple of US Marines that were going to Vegas for a few days, kind of have fun, picked me up and brought me back. But I'm still trying to get my car back. But anyway, it's but once I get that sorted, yes, what is it? It's Tuesday. So yesterday didn't do much, just kind of obviously trying to figure the car. But normally you're going to take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to kind of rest and do all that stuff and get to the gym and get kind of, just kind of settle back in. And then you're back into practice and just kind of get ready. And that's the beauty of knowing your schedules. You kind of know what to prepare for the next. I've got Pebble Beach next week, Phoenix the week after, and Riviera in Los Angeles the week after that. So I played all the courses, so I kind of know what to prepare for. And so I'll kind of get into that later in the week and kind of see what shots I need to play.
Sounds like it'll be a very exciting next few weeks and even a year for you. One more change that I want to have a chat about is your caddy in the last 2 years. So Simon Keelan, he's obviously a friend of yours. You grew up together playing underage golf. How did he come onto the bag, and obviously how big a difference is it having someone you grew up with on your team?
It's been massive. How it happened was actually bizarre. So it was what years again? Geez, so 2019 in the summer. So I had like my old caddy John Rathouse, like great caddy, great guy, and he was getting married in the summer of 19, so he wasn't going to be able to make the Canadian Open, and so I had a different guy lined up for the week, and like probably a week before he gets a full-time job, so he can't fill in, and probably within 30 minutes, I would say, of him cancelling, I got a message from Simon, and Simon was carrying on the LPGA tour at the time, and he was like, I can't remember exactly his message, but basically he was like, if you know of any bags on the PGA tour that might be interested, let me know. And I was like, I don't know if this would interest you, but I need someone for the Canadian Open in a couple of weeks' time or next week or whatever it was. And he was like, and he's like, he'd love to do it. So he came over to, and I was staying with friends, and we had a great week. And it was like, I didn't play, like I actually missed the cut, didn't play particularly well or anything. But I really enjoyed the week. It was one of the more enjoyable weeks, even considering I didn't play well. Like it was very enjoyable. And that it just kind of hit home that you kind of forget like Irish people, we're just different. Like we have different senses of humor and all that stuff. And it was just very, very enjoyable. You get to, just even being able to talk about stuff back home, all that stuff just made me feel very comfortable. So I said it to him, and he was caddying, and he caddied all the way through the Solheim Cup that fall in 19, and then he started. But it's been brilliant, and it's been kind of cool because like he came over when I wasn't in the best spot. I didn't have full status. I had that 126 to 50, and like he's helped me. Geez, because I wasn't hitting it well, I was struggling, and like he's been just a massive help on all ends. And because it's a tricky relationship. Like even on Sunday there, like I mean, like when I'm, what was it, like 5 over after 6 or whatever, and anyone's been around golfers, like geez, they're whiny at the best of times. You're 5 over after 6, you're especially whiny, like, and he's brilliant. I guess he knows me well, so like he always says the right things, and sometimes it's like it's just like sometimes it's not even like it doesn't have to be all like friendly and stuff. Like he'll tell it to you straight. Like especially like you get all whiny as a golfer, like he'll tell it to you straight, and but it just like everything about it it's been so helpful. I mean, the last 2.5 years, it's been very enjoyable, but like incredibly helpful. His background is very good too. Like he was a teaching pro and all that coach, stuff. So so he's brilliant to have around. I mean, just on a Tuesday, like we have our routine. Like he'll check. He'll check all my setup in terms of putting and long game and all that stuff. Just have nothing major, but he's just like he's always on the lookout for that stuff. So that's very helpful. He's very, very good on the bag, and it's been a great relationship, at least on my end anyway. So it's one of those things. Hopefully we can kind of continue.
Well, look, it's been very successful for you guys so far. You mentioned earlier on that winning was obviously one of your goals, but you did have higher ambitions. You're now inside the World Top 50 after the great 3 weeks that we've just had. Has that changed your goals or your targets? Obviously, there's a certain event in April that I'm sure has caught your eye, and you want to make sure you stay within that number.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that, like you try not to think about too much, but I mean, you do get asked about it a lot. But as I said to Simon, I mean, my goal, obviously, one of the goals is to play the Masters, but my goal is to certainly not like sneak into the Masters. Like as I said to him, it's like if I go and win one of these events, like that's all locked up and it's cemented, and there's no debating it kind of thing. So it's. Even a top 50 is brilliant, but like I do have higher, ambitions still, and so that's still driving me. It's like it's really nice to see. Obviously, like it's 47, I think, after last weekend. I mean, it's nice to see, but I do have higher ambitions and that sort of stuff. It's like, you know, obviously the win was great, but it's, you know, I want to win bigger events. I mean, I want to play and compete in majors, and, you know, you want to play Ryder Cups, and you want to play the Masters, and you want to play, like, you know, Opens and all this stuff. And, you know, you want to compete and play at the best under the brightest lights. You know, that's what you practice for. I mean, all the other stuff is great, but I mean, just that feeling of, you know, making a huge putt in those situations, you know. I mean, obviously, you know, who knows if we'd ever replicate, but, you know, the most memorable moments in golf are guys doing things under the most extreme pressure, you know, like Paul McGinley's putt in the Ryder Cup. And you saw Padraig, you know, holy crap, like winning those majors. And even Shane, I know, like, he was an amateur, but even like that moment in the Irish Open, and, you know, all that stuff that's the stuff you just dream about, you know. And they're, you know, I want to put myself in more of those situations and kind of see what happens. And, like, they're going to be the goals, you know. Getting the top 50 is great, and you know, if I get into Masters, that'd be brilliant. But, you know, I want to be in the Masters on, like, full merit, and being able to be in a position where I can get in the Masters and legitimately feel like I can compete and be up there. You know, that's the goal. You know, it's just, this is like, I feel like I'm still on, you know, stepping stones on where I want to be.
What's the rest of your season looking like then? Obviously, the next 3 weeks are what, Pebble and the likes?
Yeah. So I really haven't planned much, Pat. So I've got Pebble. I'm going to play Pebble, Phoenix, LA, not play Honda, and then I'm going to play Bay Hill, Players, Valspar, and Match Play. And that's all I've planned from there. Like, you know, obviously, hopefully in freaking Masters and stuff like that by then. But I've only really have a plan to there. I have a rough idea from there, but not entirely sure. Yeah, so I'm going to play Irish, Scottish, and then hopefully the Open, obviously. But I've only kind of rough ideas from, because it's so much is unknown. Like, if I can in the top 50, obviously, you know, and that kind of changes a few things here and there. So we'll see. I say I'm going to busy stretch. I'm going to play 7 of the next 8 starting next week.
Wow.
And then ideally I play match play, week off Masters. But we'll see.
Wow. Yeah, well, listen, Seamus, you're going to have us in your corner and the entire of Ireland behind your back supporting you. We absolutely hope to see you in the Masters and competing. So thank you so much for your time. We really, really enjoyed having this chat with you today.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
On the tee, Jack Nicklaus.
This is the minute that millions around the world have waited for.
We will allow you to enjoy all of this. They are dancing in the pubs of Dublin. Harrington with an ace.
And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness. The return to glory.